Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome back to Fallen London. We are going to be carrying on with Caveat Emptor and we have to go to the Cobwebbed Observatory, I believe it was? Oh dear, this is what happens when you don't look at where you're going before you start. There we go. Key to the Cobwebbed Observatory. Keep your eyes peeled in this place or your eyes might get peeled. Gonna be spiders, isn't there? He didn't realise the observatory on Watchmaker's Hill was a leasehold. Has the Vicomte de V always owned this estate, or is it a more recent acquisition? Either way, the blind astronomers are still installed, along with a few 100,000 eight-legged tenants. Well, let's go visit the observatory. Nobody answers your knock, but that doesn't mean nobody's home. You've entered the Cobwebbed Observatory, and you instantly walk through cobwebs that curtain the door. Pull them away, walk through more in the hall, pull those away, walk through even more in the next hall. You can see how things are going to proceed on this estate. At least, you could see if you didn't have webs tangled across your face. This is going to be deeply unpleasant, isn't it? Okay, so we're not alone here. Chanting echoes down the corridors. You discover the observatory's blind astronomers engaged in what they assure you is a completely scientific ritual. Are those sorrow spiders spinning webs near the ceiling, being subjected to some tests? On the contrary, the astronomers are being tested for both their devotion and their suppleness. Let's speak with the blind astronomers. The Vicomte de V is their landlord. They may know more about him. The Vicomte de who? I've never heard the name before, but judging from the manner in which they're applying astronomical instruments to their own bodies, they aren't necessarily lodgers who would consider a leasehold arrangement closely. Soon enough, they are speaking in tongues, gripped by too much experimental ecstasy for you to interrogate further. The sorrow spiders, on the other hand, twitch and scramble when you mention the Vicomte, as though you just suggested hiring a particularly notorious menace eradicator. Several escape into cracks between the stones. Hopefully that means they don't like him. Step in the right direction, is it not? Let's go investigating, scuttling. They are everywhere. Sorrow spiders. They pour through cracks. They drop along threads from the ceiling. They swarm at your feet. But they do not attack. Instead, the more sizable spiders start to nudge your legs with their great furry heads. Meanwhile, their smaller brethren clear a path, guiding you down a hallway. What could possibly go wrong? Follow the sorrow spiders. They're leading you somewhere, hopefully not into a more accommodating web. There is something very wrong with this estate. Sorrow spiders aren't known to behave like this. All around you they hiss and they spit, rearing back and bristling as though they were in danger from some larger animal. They hurry you along the corridors, guiding you deeper into the building. Whatever might be hidden here, they want you to find it and find it quickly. Guessing that's because the Vicomte is following me. Darkness. The blind astronomers who occupy this estate don't need candles. You're not a blind astronomer, but a few pitch-black stairwells with uneven steps and dark rooms filled with bone-chomping crunches and burps won't stop you from touring the address properly. Alright, let's forge ahead. Use your hands to feel where the walls are. Ignore that sticky texture. Uh-oh. Why are you sprawled on the floor? You must have lost consciousness for a moment when you bumped your head. After you fell down the stairs. After you slipped in that puddle. After something large and hairy brushed your hand in the darkness. On second thought, what was that puddle? On second thought, better not ask. The Vicomte is coming. The high-risk challenge, we'll look at that one later. A 60%, what about the third one? 30, oh my. Okay, well we're going for the one in the middle then, aren't we? Hora Nocturna. At the appointed hour, when the false stars are aligned, the blind astronomers conduct another ritual. You are invited to attend. You are ushered into a room where every surface is scored with cosmological symbols. Close your eyes. You will not need your vision for these rites, and no peeking. Your eyeballs, you are reassured, will remain in your skull. Well, that's good. Ow. That's not where you're supposed to stand. That's not what you're supposed to say. You do not know these rites, and their subtleties escape you as the ceremony proceeds through its stages. Nevertheless, you can sense another presence in the room. Your own eyes might be closed, but something else is watching you with great intensity. Oh dear, all of these are very high risk. Well, this one was 30%, so... oh dear. All scientific experiments require the appropriate instruments. The question is, which experiments might require these? They look expensive. They also look more painful than standard astronomical equipment. Astrolabs don't typically have quite so many blades. It was like this when you touched it. You definitely didn't crack the delicate glass apparatus or knock over these vials when you were trying to sweep up the pieces. No, not me. Never. Is someone watching you? When you turn around, you see no one, but you hear footsteps. You smell cologne mingled with something rich, something rotten. Your heart begins to beat faster, as it might beat when a will is being read, or when certain stimulants are introduced in the body. You're beginning to feel lightheaded. Let's run. We have had that before, so I read that in the last episode. Let's see if we can find something we can actually pass here. This is getting silly. All of these are really hard. Yeah, we've got to go for the Hora Nocturna again. Hey, something else is here. Something larger than this ritual's buns can contain. It could fill your heart if you let it. It could lift your spirit as the worshippers lift their voices. It could show you things, so many things. Branches heavy with fruit that isn't fruit. Roots growing through soil that is not soil. Stars in their specific positions. This may not be a church, but the atmosphere is charged with the same energy that comes from burning incense and kneeling to pray during a service. We're stuck with horrible ones again. Oh wait, this is a 60% chance now. Maybe we'll find out what these instruments are for. Luckily, you aren't looking into the lens when you turn the dial. Your eye sockets aren't sufficiently hollowed to accommodate the metal that emerges. It would appear these particular instruments aren't designed to look further outward, but to look deeper inward. Very deep indeed, depending on how much you turn the dial. Let's not stick your face in that thing. Oh, darkness. Maybe we can pass the darkness this time. Follow your instincts. Step lightly. Leave behind whatever might be whispering into your ear. Ignore the little tugs at your elbow and keep walking. Whatever lies here in the shadows, if living is even what it can be called, you won't allow it to block your passage. You keep walking until you have walked through the darkest hall. You keep walking until you are alone with your own thoughts. Don't stop walking. 60%, another 60% in the ceremony again, and 60%. Oh, we haven't done the collection before, let's find out. This room is colder than the rest. It's where the specimens are kept. Some float inside enormous jars, others are packed neatly into locked boxes. Whenever these locks were installed to keep onlookers out, or to keep the specimens in, remains open to speculation. Your teeth are chattering, your skin is prickled with goosebumps. It must be the temperature. It's not a reaction from seeing that thing in the vat. At least, it's not a reaction from that thing in the vat seeing you. since that thing in the vat doesn't have eyes. Dear. This place is worse than the bloody bookshop. Follow the sorrow spiders again. Let's go into the darkness again. Damn it, we're unlucky. Wow, I am getting so unlucky here. This is insane. Okay, let's run again. Fortunate again, good. Getting warmer. My word, that is a pungent aroma. Even when you pinch your nose, it stings your sinuses. Is it wafting from the other room, seeping through the floor or the ceiling? You can practically taste the odour. If it were served as a dish, you would not recommend the chef. Let's follow the scent. Wonderful, that was a big boon. The collection. Have we done a view from above? Heights are achievable here. Climb and climb until you reach the uppermost landing. Walk through the door at the top and then keep going up. Now look down and you can see the city spread before you like a picnic across a blanket. Just don't lean too hard on a railing. It tends to wobble. Okay, observe your surroundings. This building is, after all, an observatory. Look at London. Look closer. Divide it into parcels, and then you can comprehend it. Study its laws, and then you can understand how to change those laws. Every neighbourhood has its flavour, just as every dish at a picnic does too. Wouldn't you want to taste them? You feel as though your gaze is being guided by an outstretched hand, as though another hand is resting upon your shoulder, as though someone is asking you to consider a point that slips into the fog before you can catch it. I think that got us. Ooh, we still haven't found his lair. Entangled? You can't take a step without walking into a cobweb. Every corridor, chamber and door is draped with their dust-caked curtains. Which isn't to suggest no one has tried to clean the place, but the brooms and mops caught in the webs can testify as to how these janitorial efforts were received. Alright, let's push our way through the curtains. Don't mind the mummified morsels that cling to your face. Occasionally, more strength is required to break a cobweb than might be considered entirely reassuring, but you always manage. These webs were not spun to catch something your size. Whatever they were spun to catch, you wouldn't necessarily bring a dog or cat into this building, or a small child. If we can participate in the ceremony again. Yep, same energy that comes from praying in a service. There it is. The Vicomte's lair. My oh my, we've been running around in circles. Your perception sharpens. You study the room as the Vicomte would study the rooms. This architecture is anatomy. These beams are bones. These halls are vessels that you can measure their pulse. Here it is, a heartbeat you can trace to a place even your key could not have opened if you had only looked but had not seen. Now you're looking down at a long box. And we'll destroy it. What you see inside the long box when you pry its panels apart might be mistaken for dirt, but you don't mistake it for dirt. It shifts ever so slightly from something long and sinuous moving amongst the clods. Probably a tapeworm, says Penstock, when you've returned to his office to hand back the key. You should see how big those things can grow. Unless, maybe you shouldn't. The Vicomte de V isn't the only parasite that hitched a ride with the bazaar, but don't worry. The biggest ones tend to burrow. Won't meet those without a little spelunking. Okay, let's discuss the Cobwebbed Observatory. Your visit didn't entirely elucidate what beliefs the residents hold. Religious fanatics, the lot, says Penstock. That cult doesn't need Vicomte de V to flourish. He just saw an opportunity to tap into a passion that already existed. A passion for perception, as it were. That's why he bought the observatory, rewrote their leasehold agreement, so that he could encourage their superstitions, use his influence to fan the flames a little, bask in the warmth of their devotion to whatever they're devoted to. Astronomy? Arcanids? Don't ask me about that part, I just filed a paperwork. Okay, so it's time to discuss the Sanguine Chateau. Now that you've been to the Vicomte's estates, what about your property? I'm sure he'll come again, says Penstock, reading other contracts through a magnifying glass. Says you sabotaged. On second thought, let's not say sabotage. Too much legal culpability. Since you reorganised free of the Vicomte's lairs, he has less freedom to travel, which means he's more likely to visit your chateau. Penstock sets aside his magnifying glass to look at you. You realise you've also got night soil on your property, don't you? That's why the Vicomte can stay there. I won't tell you what to do next time you meet, but save room for supper. Oh dear. He's going to be coming for us, isn't he? Familiarity 2 with my estate. I guess we'll be walking around. Can we take a stroll around the courtyard? I've read all of these before. Hey, I got 2 cheery goldfish. Ripples spread from the pond's centre. You make your way around its edge. This courtyard is the house's heart, to which every corridor eventually returns, just as every garden path brings you back to the pond. You watch the water, and you can imagine a goldfish swimming underneath the surface, transformed into a steaming entree, recanced on a silver platter. Someone is whispering again, describing each sumptuous course that awaits. Just let everything simmer a little longer. Only a little longer. Okay, let's search the premises again. Now you've seen the blueprints, you might have new ideas where to look. Penstock's records were largely accurate. Where the walls should join, they join. Where the cellars end, they end. But examining your chateau's blueprints has given you reason to take a few tools to the flagstones in the courtyard. The area was not originally paved. Eventually, you uncover a cache that is utterly stuffed with love letters. Goodness, you've never seen vocabulary applied in such novel ways. The entire Ministry of Public Decency would faint dead on the spot if they read some of these. And let's examine the taxidermy. You've acquired more than just one hideous specimen. We've read that before, but we got another thigh bone. I don't know what these bones are for, but I'm sure they'll be useful at some point, huh? Sit down for a meal. Here we go. Now, at last, you are ready to eat. A single blood drop falls into the pond. It spreads outward, and then the pond is red, and the redness rises until there is no courtyard, no chateau, only the Vicomte de V sitting at a small table surrounded by brimming crimson. Penstock prepared you well, he says. My loyal estate agent, always executing my requests. I knew as soon as we met, who in this city would not? You have so many connections. London's pulse beats stronger around you. Now I have you all to myself, just for tonight, but tonight is still young enough. We were tricked. Should have seen this coming. The Vicomte de V does not look quite the same. Because I never look the same, people see what they desire in me, or what they believe they desire. Everything is perception, even love. Perhaps, especially. Let us dine together and make love the dish. Taps an egg in an egg cup with a silver spoon. What shall we try first? 3 options here. Something dark and delicate. Certain flavours are more subtle than a thief's fingers. Something bloody and rare. A butcher could provide nothing better. Or something warm and familiar. You might have to blow on it before taking the first bite. Let's go with something warm and familiar. It isn't an egg that he's tapping. You can feel the spoon. reverberate. And then you can hear the shell crack. But it isn't a shell. No fire could burn this hot, no hearth could welcome you in such comfort. When the windows rattle, there are no windows, and when the storm batters the door, there is no storm, there is no door, nothing can hurt you here. This place is where you belong. This place is wherever you are. When you remember it, when you are with the Vicomte, you remember things you never knew you'd forgotten. The first course. Things that soothe you from inside and spread contentment through your very veins. Own your awareness. Existence will open to you. Embrace it. Hold it tighter. Never forget what it means to call some place your own. What it means to come home and find waiting. Just where you left it. Precisely what you worried you had lost. It can never be lost. You're home now. Well, I am going to try and resist this, but we do have two options. We can share our memories. You're already forging new ones with the Vicomte, or we can keep our memories to ourselves. What you remember is what you remember. I have fallen so far. I can't blame you for rejecting me. There is nowhere I belong anymore. Once people learn what I am, they'll all turn me away. I have to make myself belong. I have to carve my own place in this city, because nobody else will carve a place for me. You might think my title affords me certain privileges. What is a title? What is fame? What is fortune? Nothing, he says, scraping in vain an empty bowl's bottom. When you don't have love. Got a dubious testimony, and we're on to the second course. I cultivate various passions at my properties, says the Vicomte de V, loosening his cravat. By bringing people together, by fostering their interests. Why do you think Penstock lent you those keys? You unlocked more than just doors. You unlocked desires. Desire to explore, to understand, to experience more. And your emotions marionated splendidly. He reaches for salt and pepper. What shall we try next? Go with something bloody and rare. It isn't salt and pepper, of course it isn't, but it enhances the moment when he sprinkles a dash, another dash, with an addictive flavour. Even the rarest steak is not this rare. Even the bloodiest battle is less impassioned. Something throbs in your throat, some great vein, and with every throb the room throbs and your senses sharpen until you could cut through this world like the finest sirloin. Listen, each noise is music. Breathe, every scent is perfume. Look, the Vicomte is closer to you, closer, although the Vicomte hasn't moved. Colours bloom like flowers around you. Colours that saturate every moment until the smallest detail drips with rich significance. We needn't close our eyes to dream. Open them wider. Nothing is impossible. Whatever you desire to be, you can be. And whatever you aspire to do, you can do. Beguile this city with your charms. Refine your sensitivities and taste new emotions like succulent fruit. And we'll keep our aspirations to ourselves. For the moment, your hopes and dreams will remain your own. I have no right to ask for anything. You make your own choices. You steer your own fate. Your heart cannot give what it prefers to keep. When I have nothing else, I still have hope. Hope that someone will understand me. Hope that someone might spare me a crumb. I wouldn't wish for anyone to starve as I have starved, to go without love for so long that you doubt it exists. I hope love exists, he says, dabbing his eyes with a napkin. I have to hope. My friend, you do not know your own vitality. I assure you, it's greater than even you suspect. This house's last tenant brought death to the table, but you bring life, says the Vicomte de V, his cravat now unravelled to expose his neck. It's a rather plump neck, engorged by red fluid inside, stretching his skin thin enough to be half translucent. He scrapes his knife and fork together. What have we saved for the third course? Something dark and delicate. Normally, knives wouldn't be so sharp. Normally, folks would have fewer tines. They really do design the most ingenious cutlery these days. There are no rats in the walls, there are no shadows. The darkness here is deeper than a house could hold. It draws you closer, throws its whispering cloak around your shoulders, opens the gate when nobody is watching, and slips with you into a nightmare alive with revels. Don't get caught. You won't get caught. You are with the Vicomte, and when you are with the Vicomte, secrets themselves adore you. We're going to keep it to ourselves, but secrets and desires so private that they cannot be put into words. You must walk around them quietly. You must lower your voice to a hush. Lower than that. Only at those moments when the night is still, when the revels are over and the streets have emptied, can you feel them stir somewhere inside. Somewhere dark and delicate and delicious. Keep it to ourselves. I know that I'm a monster. I'm a beast. I'm not worthy. I look at myself and I wonder how anyone else could love me. Even having a conversation, even asking for your attention, is more than this monster deserves. But when the universe despises you, when you must feed upon hatred, contempt, and suspicion for your daily bread, how can you not hunger for affection? A single, kind word, he says, staring at his empty dish. Is a banquet for a famished heart. Time for the final course. We are so close, says the Vicomte de V. I have nothing to hide. You know I need love to survive, but who doesn't need love? You have so much to give, only the tiniest nibble, the littlest bite, and I'll be satisfied. My teeth won't hurt, I promise you. This is the final course. His lips drip with thick, crimson drool as he stares at the bell on the table. Well, let's ring the bell, remove the silver dome from the last dish. You see him now for what he is. A bloodsucker, indeed. His body is bloated beneath his clothing. His flesh strains from liquid inside. Scarlet drops sparkling in every pore. Those aren't arms, maybe they're legs. That face is not a face either, but those teeth are definitely teeth. Call me a fool, says the Vicomte de V, but I love you. I love everyone. You can condemn me, curse me, even kill me, and I'll understand. I know what I am. His voice is inside your head. You are inside something too, something enormous and sticky, with strands that extend to the stars. I want love. Only love. London is a web, and you are sitting at its centre. Now you perceive the threads that bind you. Threads that no fingers can touch, that have held you in place for this meal, which is almost over. You are not bound anymore. You can do as you please. You must always, says your companion, unhinging his jaws, do what your heart knows is right. We've got three options here. We can let him bite you. He seems to have a sweet tooth. We can leave the table and leave him yearning for more, or we can pop him. He is so bloated, it would be easier than bursting a balloon. You know, I feel he's dangerous. I think I'm going to pop him. Horrible as this sounds. Pop. The Vicomte de V looks you in the eye, and in his look there is only longing. And then his skin breaks. Such a thin skin, thinner than a grape's. And his body explodes. Blood pounds the ceiling, blood splatters the walls, blood floods the room, fills the chateau, with oceans that, on second glance, are no more than the courtyard's pond. In fact, there is no blood at all. There is only the property deed in your hand. Its clauses writhe like maggots in a frying pan. Eventually, one letter at a time, they stop writhing. Penstock has some explaining to do. Let's go see Penstock. They say London has 7 labyrinths. Okay, so I've read that thing at the top before. Let's demand a few explanations. Popped him, eh? Asked Penstock, examining your chateau's deed again. Sentient property law? What? I guess you know that some contracts have fangs, and I might have incorporated a particularly hungry legal clause into this deed. The Vicomte de V? He's how an observer might, let's say, interpret such a clause. How the terms can manifest for a receptive mind. Sounds like you destroyed your deed's copy, which means you won't meet the Vicomte at your chateau again, but the copies exist. I've put the clause into a few contracts. Whatever he told you about our relationship, though, I'm not his servant. Behind Penstock's office, through a door in the wall, where the plaster bulges, there is a room with no lantern, no candle, no light. But in that room, you can see perfectly. It blazes with living sigils, fluorescing on the bazaar's skin, against which his agency is built. I'm hers, says Penstock, touching the bazaar. One sigil differs from the rest. It oozes thick crimson fluid. A parasitic law, says Penstock. It doesn't just eat passion, it inspires passion. All those properties with this legal cause worked into their contracts inspire passion too, even if they nip a little. That's why she wants to spread it. London needs inspiration. You won't hold it against me, will you? He lets out a sigh. It wouldn't be the first time I've done something foolish for love. We have two options. We can deface the sigil. Nobody will reproduce this clause again if you can help it. Or we can study the sigil. What is this thing? You've never seen any legal language quite like it before. Well, let's deface the sigil. It kind of fits with the killing the Vicomte, doesn't it? Or popping him, I should say. In for a penny, in for a pound. Penstock watches without intervening. Even when the sigil starts to shriek, even when it spurts blood and ropes lash his face, it shrivels, drops onto the floor. You crush it under your heel, mangling its grammar beyond any editorial repair. I couldn't have done that myself, he says, wiping his forehead with a handkerchief. Even now, I'm not sure how well she'll take it, but something had to happen. I'm getting too old to drag long boxes around. If the estates weren't prepared, you see, the deeds with the sigil wouldn't stick. You can keep this one. I won't be transporting much night soil again. Before you leave, he covers over his shoulder. Just remember, true love never dies. We got a Soothe and Cooper long box. And we destroyed the original parasitic sigil and popped the copy on your deed. Now it's time for the epilogue. One evening, as you're passing the docks, you catch a familiar whiff. When you locate its source, you discover a few sailors loading a particularly aromatic longbox onto a steamer. Bound for the tomb colonies, one explains. Special shipment. Can't imagine why a taxidermist would need so much night soil, though. Oh dear, not again. So we have two options. We can bid them a pleasant voyage. It's fair weather for sailing, as fair as this weather can get anyway. Or we can sabotage the shipment. You can imagine the night soil's purpose and you won't allow it to leave London. Yeah, we're going to sabotage the shipment. By the time anyone notices the hole you've drilled in the long box's bottom, it will be too late to turn the ship around. Someone might have purchased property in the tomb colonies via certain legal arrangements before you could destroy Penstock's sigil, but that property won't support those legal arrangements much longer. Not without this night soil to stabilize the deed. And without the original sigil to copy, only so many contracts can still be in circulation. Sooner or later, their terms will also have to unravel. After all, laws only have the influence that people perceive them to have. In matters of the bazaar, look to love always. And consider keeping a solicitor on retainer. And we got another sack of night soil of the bazaar. But we have finished the exceptional story. So, I'm going to thank you all very much for being here. The writing in that story was phenomenal. I enjoyed every second of it. Even running around in circles inside of the houses. But, you know, thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated, especially if you had a different ending to mine. But as always, I'll see you next time.